It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today I'm coming at you with a very interesting team. Basically because I was looking at my most powerful cookies, and latte was listed under that. And just to show you that, if I sort down by power, latte cookie. Now the reason of that is because she already has a very high base power, which I can show you here, at 163,000. That already is pretty strong. When you put critical toppings on her, such as this, as you can see, it goes well above into the 245,000 range, which is a huge, huge power number. But as we've proved on this channel and many other channels before, power does not always equate to a strong cookie. I mean, it's a good start, of course, but it's not the guarantee. So the idea behind this team is that we've got the scroll boosting our power, our attack power, that is. We've got the Jelly Watch so that we can get heals off as many times as possible from pomegranate and cream puff cookie. We've got our pumpkin pie to have that 1 second timer to start the rotation of skills and give us an extra body on the field, as well as give healing reductions to the enemy team. We've got wild berry to give our entire team damage resistance, as well as the ability to have a strong front tank, and also to be a damage dealer in return for the damage that we will be getting from the enemy team. And then last but not least, we have cream puff and latte as our critical nuclear tactical strikes. So between the toppings that they have, which I will show you here, 71%, 0.7% on latte, and that's with the toppings itself, which is 53.7, and then the amount that I have from the monuments. And then if we go to cream puff, 67.9, which yet again from the topping and the monuments. So if you take those numbers and you look at the scythe, which is 29.8%, that gives latte a 100% chance to hit a critical strike, and cream puff nearly 100% chance as well. Which, if you remember the buff on cream puff, the skill says when she hits a critical, she will deal an extra amount of damage on successful of 1,286%, and on healing 263%. So this is still critical based, which means it can fail, as you've seen before with critical builds. But I'm just going to take it against a few people and show you how it does. So this was really fun because I wanted to build around latte. I think latte is a great cookie, and I want to see her in the arena more often. I also needed 2 healers to make sure that I could keep up with all the damage coming from multiple teams. Now, of course, burst teams like scam teams or maybe like the speed teams, you're going to probably have some issues against that. But as you can see, the glyph from latte is pulling all of their team together. It's causing a silence, which is making it so that they have less chances to cast their skill right away. And we blow away the team with 89% health left. So if we look at the stats here, we have Wildberry doing 2.7 million because of the massive heals going on to Wildberry. And we have Latte and Cream Puff doing 2 million, where the Pumpkin doing almost 1.5. So great damage all around from our team. And the heals, well over 6 million between the 2 of the cookies because of the critical strikes and the critical success spell on Cream Puff, her doing more, versus the other team only managing 2.3 million heals. So I think that's a really interesting telling tale. And they had a Cloud of Cream cookie, which technically should be countering our Wildberry. So I love that that worked against that too. Now we're just going to take it against some other teams, see what we can get. This person doesn't play anymore, so they have not updated anything, but this is an old meta team, so it's actually a really good representation of 3 metas ago, or 3 seasons ago, I should say, what used to be the popular team, and we can see if it beats that, because this was when the hollyberry and the strawberry crepe had a really good defensive build, and so it still might do really well, but it's good to test against something that was old meta so that we can kind of get comparisons of, is this team really best suited for new metas, or does it handle itself against old metas too? So I like to see it from multiple angles if we have that option. So you can see we lost Latte and Pumpkin Cookie here from their high defensive powers and their shields, Eclair dealing a lot of damage. Wildberry and Cream Puff are still kicking it though. Pomegranate doing well with the heals. I mean, like it's a resistant team, and so that's what I find pretty interesting. Wildberry doing great with the stuns. the heals just constantly coming from both pomegranate and cream puff. The fact that they actually, as healers, out-survived our DPS units, pretty amazing. And here we can see over 8 million healing damage just because of how long the battle took. So truly massive healing numbers between the two of them. So we're going to go ahead and find another person who is more than likely up to meta. And in fact, we will go into my guild and see if any of those members who I know have high damage resistance on their cookies, if we can take any of them by chance. So we're just going to pick someone random. Let's go with this person. Alright, so this is a speed team, so this is pretty likely for us to not be able to beat. But it's a good test, and we should test it and see what we get. So pumpkin pie, bringing out the next body, the healing down from their end. We've got high fast healing of critical strikes from cream puff and pomegranate. Yet again, pumpkin pie and latte dying out. And in fairness, I'll show you the toppings after. The damage resistance is pretty low on both pumpkin pie and latte. So this team could be, of course, much better and handle much stronger. But it did not have a chance against the speed team. So that didn't necessarily surprise me. Handling that, you either have to have herb or you have to have a lot of defensive power, maybe a hollyberry or cacao tanking a lot of the hits. The speed team's still really strong. So we're going to try one other person. Okay, a T-Knight team. This should be interesting. This T-Knight should technically sweep our entire team, but let's see if we can get T-Knight to perish first based on the way we have our setup, which is very heavy critical damage fighting against everybody all at once. As you can see, our health bar is retaining pretty nicely, and we've wiped out the majority of their team. And now we are at the point when the insignia is activated, so they only have right now to finish out our entire team, which Wildberry does a very, very good job against fighting T-Knight, I have found in all the arena matches. So if you need a T-Knight counter, Wildberry is definitely going to be your pick. And you can see 3.2 million damage there, but we out-healed that by a large factor. So that wasn't even a comparison battle against that, but it was still interesting to test. So to show you the toppings before we jump out of this, and yes, they can be changed. They probably will be changed anyway. The almonds on Wildberry, I just want them to be stronger, but I would keep that as far as the build on him. The chocolate toppings can be worked around for pomegranate. She lasted very well in most of the matches because of the high healing and attack buffs, but she had no damage resistance. So if you can get chocolate toppings at a high cooldown rate and have damage resistance, you're going to keep her around a lot and be buffing the team quite a lot too. Latte, fully critical focused. I don't have good enough apple jellies to put on every single cookie, and I'm not really going to be shifting and moving them around just for team fights and comparisons, because it's good to show you their low-end power, so that way you can say, well, if I get great toppings on them, how strong can they be at that point? Because, yes, I could try to get perfect toppings on each cookie and show you that way, but that's not realistic. What's realistic is you're going to have a hard time struggling to get perfect toppings. It's going to take you months to grind them out. It's taking me months. So it's best to just show you what I'm able to compile together and how I'm building the cookies and what I can make do with that. So that way if you want to build teams and be funky and creative, you can do that. So if I could raise the stats on Latte here, damage resistance instead of 2.8 would be 30%. That would give a lot more resistance and survivability to Latte. And the only other thing is I would bring that cooldown from 2.9% all the way to 10%. Getting that silence and that glyph pulling all the cookies together, removing for 1 second a chance for them to cast their abilities, and then pushing everyone together so that they can be hit by Wildberry is a very, very important thing of this, because Wildberry, if they are out of range, it's not going to hit. So Wildberry having them all pushed together for one big super uppercut, that's a real cool thing that I figured out was really synchronized pretty well with this team. Pumpkin pie, I know peanut toppings, they still make everyone baffled. Here's the thing. When I get them perfected, it will be amazing. But I have a long grind to go to get these peanut toppings up for pumpkin pie. The biggest reason is because Pom Pom summons with 380 some % of the HP of pumpkin pie. So if I can get that to a perfect HP percent, perfect damage resistance, and a perfect defense stat, Pumpkin Pie should at least be feasible enough to survive, while a massive HP Pom Pom comes out and just deals damage consistently for a long time. Because most of the time, the timer bar does not run out for Pom Pom. If anything, usually they just perish to damage, which is fine, but your damage resistance does not transfer over to Pom Pom. Your defense does if you want to build it in that sense, and I could build a walnut build too for Pumpkin Pie, but for now, this is what I'm working on. I'm going to be working on hazelnuts, peanuts, and walnuts for Pumpkin Pie. You can be safe and just run almonds, of course, and if you're going to do that, you're not necessarily going to lose out on any stats. This is more end game kind of fine tuning that I'm using for Pumpkin Pie, because there's very special things you can do with her since she has an always 1 second cooldown. So cooldown isn't even a stat you need to focus on at all. I just randomly have it here because it's within one of the toppings that I picked for high HP and defense and damage resistance, but it's not something you actually need to focus on for Pumpkin Pie. And then last but not least, Cream Puff. Yet again, cooldown, damage resistance, those would be the things that I would raise here, just because skill going off as much as possible, survivability as much as possible, high critical percentages, a lot of damage can come out of this. So I think it's a fun team. I think it's definitely really interesting. And if I could build it stronger and show you against the high tier meta, I would definitely do so. But for now, this is the build I could get. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments. Do you think that this could be a viable team going forward? What would you trade in if you had to trade anybody in? Do you hate these cookies? Do you love certain ones? Just let me know. I'd love to hear it. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by, and have a wonderful night.